Victoria Sterling pushed her rain-soaked hair away from her face as she rushed through the automatic doors of the Ocean Haven Marine Center. The morning storm had caught her off guard, leaving her blouse clinging to her shoulders and her shoes squeaking against the polished floor. She glanced at her watch and winced. The new donor was supposed to arrive any minute for the facility tour. The Ocean Haven Marine Center sat, perched on the cliffs of La Eula. Overlooking the endless stretch of Pacific Ocean, Victoria had worked here for 3 years. Ever since graduating with her marine biology degree, what started as a temporary job had become her passion. She loved everything about this place. From the gentle giants in the whale rehabilitation tanks to the tiny seahorses in the research lab, but love alone couldn't pay the bills. The center was hemorrhaging money, and Dr. Rebecca Walsh, the director, had been having increasingly desperate conversations with potential investors. Today's mysterious donor represented their last real hope of staying open. Victoria dried her hands with a paper towel and checked her reflection in the lobby's glass partition. Her green eyes still sparkled with determination, despite the exhaustion that seemed to follow her everywhere lately. She had been working double shifts, covering for volunteers they could no longer afford to keep. The reception area buzzed with the usual morning activity. Children pressed their faces against the touch tank, giggling as hermit crabs scuttled across their palms. A group of elderly visitors sat on benches, reading about sea turtle migration patterns. The familiar sounds of bubbling water and excited whispers filled the space. "Victoria, thank goodness you're here." Dr. Walsh appeared from behind the information desk, clipboard in hand. Her silver hair was pulled back in its usual neat bun, but worry lines creased her forehead. "The donor just called. He's running about 10 minutes late due to the weather, no problem." "Should I prepare the usual presentation materials?" Victoria asked, already mentally reviewing the tour route she had memorized. "Actually, this one is different. He specifically requested to see our rehabilitation programs and research facilities. Apparently, he has a strong background in marine conservation." Dr. Walsh lowered her voice. "Victoria, this could be it. The funding we need to keep our doors open." Victoria nodded, feeling the familiar weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. So many people depended on this place. The researchers conducting groundbreaking studies on coral restoration, the veterinarians who worked around the clock to save injured marine life, the educational programs that inspired thousands of children each year. She walked through the corridors, double-checking that everything was perfect. The whale observation deck gleamed from yesterday's cleaning. The research lab hummed quietly with the latest water filtration systems. In the rehabilitation pools, 3 sea lions lounged on artificial rocks, their sleek bodies testament to the center's successful rescue programs. Victoria paused at the viewing window of the largest tank where Luna, a rescued gray whale calf, swam in gentle circles. Luna had arrived 6 months ago, severely malnourished and separated from her mother. Now she was healthy and almost ready for release back into the wild. Stories like Luna's were why Victoria couldn't imagine working anywhere else. Her phone buzzed with a text message. The donor had arrived and was waiting in the lobby. Victoria smoothed her hair one more time and walked back toward the entrance. Mentally preparing her opening remarks about the center's mission and impact, first impressions, the man standing near the information desk was not what Victoria had expected. Most major donors were older, wearing expensive suits and checking their phones constantly. This stranger appeared to be in his mid-30s, with dark brown hair slightly disheveled from the storm. He wore simple jeans and a navy blue sweater that had definitely seen some rain. His most striking feature was his eyes. They were a deep blue-green, like the ocean on a clear day, and they held an intensity that made Victoria's breath catch for just a moment. He was tall, probably 6 feet, with broad shoulders and hands that looked like they had done real work, not just signed checks. "Mr. Cross?" Victoria approached with her professional smile. "I'm Victoria Sterling, your tour guide today. Welcome to Ocean Haven." Nathan Cross turned toward her, and something shifted in his expression. His serious demeanor softened into genuine warmth. "Please, call me Nathan. And thank you for accommodating the weather delay." His voice was deeper than she had expected, with a slight roughness that suggested he spent time outdoors. When he shook her hand, his grip was firm but gentle, and Victoria noticed small scars across his knuckles. Not a problem at all. Actually, stormy days can be some of the best times to visit. The marine life tends to be more active when the barometric pressure changes. Victoria gestured toward the main corridor. Shall we start with our rehabilitation facilities? As they walked, Victoria launched into her practiced explanation of the center's programs. But something unusual happened. Instead of nodding politely like most donors, Nathan asked detailed, thoughtful questions. How do you determine when a rescued animal is ready for release? He inquired, stopping to examine a chart showing rehabilitation success rates. That's actually one of our most complex decisions, Victoria replied, surprised by his genuine interest. We use a combination of physical health assessments, behavioral observations, and environmental factors. For example, we wouldn't release a sea turtle during migration season in the wrong direction. Nathan smiled, the first real smile she had seen from him. You know, most people think marine rescue is just about feeding animals and setting them free. Exactly. Victoria's enthusiasm bubbled over. The science behind successful rehabilitation is incredibly sophisticated. We track everything from stress hormones to social behaviors. They spent nearly an hour in the rehabilitation area, with Nathan asking increasingly specific questions about water temperature regulation, dietary protocols, and post-release monitoring. Victoria found herself relaxing, genuinely enjoying the conversation, instead of just delivering information. You seem to know quite a bit about marine biology, she observed, as they headed toward the research labs. Nathan paused, seeming to choose his words carefully. I've always been passionate about ocean conservation. I spent a lot of time on boats, actually. There's something about being out on the water that puts everything in perspective. Something. In his tone suggested there was more to the story, but Victoria didn't press. Many donors had personal reasons for supporting marine causes, and she respected their privacy. Deeper waters, the research laboratory, was Victoria's favorite part of the facility. Here, scientists worked on cutting-edge projects that could impact ocean health worldwide. She led Nathan past microscope stations, where researchers studied coral disease, computer terminals, analyzing whale song patterns, and tanks containing experimental coral restoration projects. This is our coral nursery, Victoria explained, gesturing to a series of specially designed tanks. We're working on techniques to help coral reefs recover from bleaching. Events Nathan leaned close to examine the tiny coral polyps growing on ceramic substrates. Temperature regulation, he asked. Precisely controlled to within half a degree. We're also experimenting with different light spectrums and probiotic treatments. Victoria found herself going into more technical detail than usual. Nathan's questions showed he understood the complexities involved. The economic impact of coral reef loss is staggering, Nathan said quietly. Most people only think about the beauty factor. But these ecosystems support millions of livelihoods. Victoria looked at him with new interest. You really do understand this work. Are you a marine biologist yourself? Not exactly, Nathan replied, his eyes still focused on the coral tanks. But I've seen firsthand how human activity affects ocean ecosystems. It's impossible to ignore once you've witnessed it. They moved through the rest of the lab, discussing research methodologies and conservation strategies. Victoria noticed that Nathan asked particularly detailed questions about funding challenges and resource allocation. He seemed as interested in the practical aspects of running the center as in the scientific work itself. Funding is always our biggest challenge, Victoria admitted, as they paused near a bank of data collection computers. Amazing research means nothing if we can't sustain it long term. How much would it take to fully fund your operations for, say, 5 years? Nathan asked casually. Victoria nearly choked on her own breath. Most donors asked about specific project costs or equipment needs. No one had ever asked about comprehensive operational funding. That would require several $1 million, she stammered. Dr. Walsh would have exact figures, but comprehensive funding like that would be transformational. Nathan nodded thoughtfully, making notes in a small leather journal he had pulled from his pocket. Victoria caught glimpses of neat handwriting and what looked like detailed calculations. The storm outside had intensified. With rain drumming against the laboratory windows, The afternoon light had turned gray and moody, casting interesting shadows across the research equipment. "Would you like to see our star resident before we finish the tour?" Victoria asked. "Luna is in the main rehabilitation pool." "Luna, our gray whale calf. She's almost ready for release." Victoria's voice softened with affection. "She's the reason I wake up excited to come to work every day." They made their way to the whale observation deck, where Luna was indeed swimming in graceful circles around her pool. The young whale was nearly 20 feet long now, her gray skin marked with the healing scars from the fishing net that had originally trapped her. Nathan stood at the viewing window for a long time, watching Luna's movements with intense focus. "She's beautiful," he said finally. "How old was she when you found her?" "About 3 months. Still nursing age, which made rehabilitation incredibly challenging." Victoria moved to stand beside him at the window. "We had to create a specialized formula and teach her to eat solid food gradually, and her mother never found. That's the hardest part about juvenile rescues. We can heal the physical injuries, but we can't replace that family bond." Nathan turned to look at Victoria, and she was surprised to see genuine emotion in his eyes. "You gave her a second chance at life. That's extraordinary." Standing there together, watching Luna glide through the water, Victoria felt an unexpected connection with this mysterious donor. He understood something that many people missed about marine conservation work. It wasn't just about saving individual animals. It was about preserving the intricate relationships that made ocean ecosystems function. "Mr. Cross," Victoria began, then caught herself. "Nathan, I have to ask. This level of interest, these questions you're asking, are you considering a partnership with Ocean Haven?" Nathan was quiet for a moment, still watching Luna. "I'm considering how I might help," he said finally. "This place, this work, it's exactly the kind of impact I want to support." Thunder rumbled overhead. The lights flickered briefly. In that moment of half-darkness, Victoria saw something in Nathan's expression that made her heart skip. There was intensity there, yes, but also kindness and a depth of caring that went beyond professional interest. "The storm seems to be getting worse," Nathan observed. "I should probably head back to my hotel soon." Victoria felt an unexpected pang of disappointment. "Of course, I hope the tour was helpful." "More than helpful," Nathan replied, turning to face her fully. "Victoria, would you be interested in continuing this conversation over dinner? I'd love to hear more about your personal vision for marine conservation." The question caught her completely off guard. In 3 years of giving donor tours, no one had ever asked her to dinner. Professional boundaries aside, there was something about Nathan that intrigued her beyond his potential funding. "I'm not sure that would be appropriate," she said hesitantly. "I mean, with you being a potential donor and all," Nathan smiled. And Victoria noticed he had a small dimple in his left cheek. "What if I promise not to talk about money? Just 2 people who care about the ocean, sharing a meal and conversation." Victoria looked out at Luna, who had surfaced near the viewing window as if listening to their conversation. Making decisions had never been her strong suit, but something about this moment felt important. "There's a small seafood place down by the harbor," she said, before she could change her mind. "Nothing fancy, but they serve the best fish tacos in San Diego." "Perfect," Nathan replied. "I'll meet you there at 7. As Victoria gave him directions and they exchanged phone numbers, she couldn't shake the feeling that this day had shifted something fundamental in her life. Nathan Cross was unlike any donor she had ever met. And despite her better judgment, she was looking forward to dinner with an anticipation that had nothing to do with fundraising. The storm continued to rage outside, but inside the Ocean Haven Marine Center, something new and unexpected had begun to bloom. The Driftwood Cafe sat tucked between weathered fishing boats and modern yachts in San Diego's harbor district. Victoria arrived 5 minutes early, her nerves dancing like the string lights that swayed in the ocean breeze. She had changed into a simple blue dress and cardigan. Nothing too formal, but nicer than her work clothes. Nathan was already waiting at a corner table on the outdoor deck, and Victoria's breath caught when she saw him. Gone was the storm-disheveled visitor from the Marine Center. His hair was neatly combed, and he wore a white button-down shirt with the sleeves rolled up, revealing those scarred hands she had noticed earlier. I hope you don't mind sitting outside, he said, standing to pull out her chair. The view is incredible tonight. Victoria settled into her seat and looked out over the harbor. The storm had passed, leaving the sky painted in deep purples and oranges. Sailboat masts created a forest of gentle swaying lines against the sunset. This is perfect. I never get tired of being near the water. They ordered fish tacos and local beer. Falling into conversation as naturally as waves finding shore, Nathan asked about Victoria's background. She found herself sharing stories she rarely told. I grew up in Colorado, actually, she said, laughing at his surprised expression. About as far from the ocean as you can get. But my family took one vacation to Monterey when I was 12 and I saw my first sea otter. That was it for me. One sea otter changed your entire life path. Nathan leaned forward, genuinely interested. She was floating on her back, holding her baby on her chest while she cracked open a sea urchin. Something about that moment. Seeing this wild animal being such a devoted mother, while also being perfectly adapted to her environment. It just clicked for me. Victoria paused, realizing how silly it might sound. I know it's not very scientific. But I decided that day I wanted to spend my life protecting that kind of beauty. Nathan's expression grew thoughtful. That's not silly at all. Sometimes the most important decisions come from moments of pure clarity like that. What about you? Victoria asked. What made you passionate about marine conservation? Nathan was quiet for a moment, absently tracing patterns on the condensation of his beer bottle. I spent a lot of time on boats as a kid. My father worked in shipping, and during summers, I'd go out with the crews. You see a lot from the deck of a cargo ship. Beautiful things, but also disturbing ones. Like what? Garbage patches that stretch for miles. Dead zones, where nothing lives anymore. Whales with propeller scars. His voice grew serious. But also incredible sunrises over pristine waters, dolphins racing alongside the bow. Storms that remind you how powerful and wild the ocean still is. Victoria watched Nathan's face as he spoke, noting the way his eyes seemed to hold both sadness and wonder. There was definitely more to his story, but she sensed he wasn't ready to share everything yet. Their food arrived. They ate while discussing everything from climate change to their favorite books. Victoria discovered that Nathan had read extensively about marine biology, ocean policy, and conservation economics. His knowledge impressed her, but more than that. His perspective was nuanced and thoughtful. Most people see environmental issues in black and white, Victoria observed. Industry bad, nature good. But you understand how complex the relationships really are. Everything is connected, Nathan agreed. Economic systems, ecological systems, human communities. You can't solve one problem without considering all the others. As the evening deepened, their conversation grew more personal. Nathan asked about Victoria's dreams beyond her current job, and she found herself admitting ambitions she had barely acknowledged to herself. I'd love to start a foundation someday, she said, swirling the last bit of beer in her bottle. Something that could fund long-term research projects and education programs. Most grants are so short-term, but real conservation work takes decades. What's stopping you? Nathan asked quietly. Victoria laughed, but there was no humor in it. Money, experience, connections. Pretty much everything you need to start a foundation. Those are just logistics, Nathan said. The vision is the hard part, and you obviously have that. Something in his tone made Victoria look at him more carefully. You sound like you speak from experience. Nathan hesitated, and Victoria sensed him weighing his words again. I've been involved in some nonprofit work. You learn that passion and knowledge matter more than credentials or connections. Moonlit confessions after dinner. They walked along the harbor boardwalk. The moon had risen, creating a silver path across the calm water. Other couples strolled hand in hand, and families pointed out the lights of boats anchored in the bay. Thank you for dinner, Victoria said as they paused near a bench overlooking the water. This has been wonderful. Thank you for saying yes, Nathan replied. I wasn't sure you would, honestly. I wasn't sure I should have. Victoria sat down on the bench, and Nathan joined her. Mixing professional relationships with personal ones is usually a recipe for disaster. Nathan turned to face her, his expression serious in the moonlight. Victoria, I need to be honest with you about something. Her heart skipped, suddenly worried he was about to reveal something that would shatter this perfect evening. What is it? My interest in Ocean Haven isn't just professional, he said carefully. Meeting you today, seeing your passion for this work, it's made me think about things differently. Victoria felt warmth spread through her chest. Nathan, I feel the same way. I've given dozens of donor tours, but I've never met anyone who understood the work like you do. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, watching the gentle waves lap against the marina docks. Victoria found herself studying Nathan's profile in the moonlight, noticing the strong line of his jaw and the way his hair curled slightly at the temples. Can I ask you something? She said finally. Anything. Earlier you mentioned spending time on cargo ships with your father. Are you still involved in shipping? Nathan's posture tensed slightly. Not exactly. I've moved into different areas of business. He paused, seeming to struggle with something. Victoria, there are things about my background that might complicate things between us. What kind of things? Victoria's stomach tightened with worry. Let's just say I've been fortunate in business. More fortunate than most people. Nathan looked out at the water instead of meeting her eyes. Sometimes that creates expectations or changes how people see me. Victoria considered this. Are you trying to tell me you're wealthy? Among other things, yes. How wealthy? She asked quietly. Nathan was silent for so long that Victoria wondered if he would answer at all. Wealthy enough that money isn't something I think about anymore, he said finally. The admission hung between them like fog rolling in from the ocean. Victoria tried to process what this meant. She had known Nathan was a potential major donor, but she had imagined someone with a successful small business or a modest inheritance, not the kind of wealth. Victoria's week passed in a blur of routine tasks and distracted thoughts. Every time her phone buzzed, she hoped it was Nathan. And every evening, she found herself touching the sea glass necklace while staring out at the harbor. He had sent sweet messages throughout his business trip, photos of sunsets from various cities and texts about how much he missed her. Friday arrived with unusual excitement at Ocean Haven. Dr. Walsh had called an emergency staff meeting, her voice carrying a note of barely contained joy that had everyone speculating about good news. I have an announcement that will change everything for our center, Dr. Walsh began, her silver hair gleaming under the conference room lights. The small group of staff members leaned forward expectantly. We have received a commitment for full operational funding for the next 10 years, plus expansion capital for new research facilities. The room erupted in surprised murmurs and excited whispers. Victoria felt her heart leap. This was beyond their wildest dreams. The donor has chosen to remain anonymous for now, but they will be visiting next week to discuss implementation details. Dr. Walsh's eyes sparkled with tears of relief. This means job security for everyone, expanded programs, and the ability to take on research projects we've only dreamed about. Victoria sat in stunned silence as her colleagues celebrated around her. 10 years of funding would transform Ocean Haven into one of the premier marine research facilities on the West Coast. They could hire more staff, upgrade equipment, and expand their rehabilitation capabilities. After the meeting, Victoria walked to Luna's pool in a daze. The young whale had grown significantly over the past months and would soon be ready for release. Now, with guaranteed funding, they could take on many more cases like hers. Her phone rang, interrupting her thoughts. Nathan's name appeared on the screen, and Victoria answered with genuine happiness. I just landed, Nathan's familiar voice said. How was your week? Incredible news at work, Victoria replied, launching into an explanation about the mysterious funding commitment. I can't believe someone would make that kind of investment in ocean conservation. It's like they understand exactly what we need. There was a pause on Nathan's end. That's wonderful, Victoria. You must be thrilled. I am, but it's also overwhelming. This kind of money comes with expectations and responsibilities, Victoria traced patterns on the pool observation window as she talked. I just hope this donor really understands what we do here and won't try to change our mission. I'm sure they chose Ocean Haven for good reasons, Nathan said quietly. Are you free for dinner tonight? I have something important I need to tell you. Something in his tone made Victoria's stomach flutter with nervousness. Of course. The same place as before? Actually, I was hoping you might come to my hotel. I've arranged for dinner on the terrace. The view is beautiful and we'll have privacy to talk. Victoria hesitated. Going to Nathan's hotel room felt like crossing a line. But his voice carried such seriousness that she sensed this conversation was important. All right, she agreed. What time? 7:30. I'm staying at the Grand Pacific. Just tell the desk you're meeting Nathan Cross in the penthouse. Penthouse. The word stuck in Victoria's mind as she hung up. She had assumed Nathan was staying at a nice business hotel. But the Grand Pacific was the most exclusive property in San Diego. Penthouse suites there cost more per night than Victoria made in a month. Chapter 2. Shattered Illusions. Victoria spent an hour getting ready, finally settling on a navy blue dress that was elegant without being too formal. She took an Uber to the Grand Pacific, her nervousness increasing as the car pulled up to the gleaming entrance. The lobby was all marble and crystal, with fresh orchids on every surface. Victoria approached the concierge desk, feeling underdressed despite her careful preparation. I'm here to see Nathan Cross, she said. Her voice smaller than intended, of course. Miss Sterling, Mr. Cross is expecting you. The private elevator to the penthouse is just to your right. The elevator rose silently to the top floor. Victoria's ears popped from the altitude. When the doors opened, she stepped directly into Nathan's suite. The space was breathtaking. Floor 2 sling windows offered panoramic views of San Diego's harbor and coastline. The living area was larger than Victoria's entire apartment, furnished with elegant modern pieces that looked like they belonged in a magazine. Nathan appeared from a side room, wearing dark slacks and a white dress shirt that made his eyes look even more striking. Victoria, you look beautiful. Nathan, this place is incredible. Victoria turned slowly, taking in the luxury surrounding her. How much does a suite like this cost? That's not important, Nathan replied, but Victoria noticed he didn't answer the question. Come see the terrace. The outdoor space was even more impressive. With a dining table set for two overlooking the twinkling lights of the harbor, candles flickered in glass hurricanes, and soft jazz played from hidden speakers. This is too much, Victoria said, feeling overwhelmed by the opulence. Victoria, please sit down. We need to talk. Nathan's expression was serious as he pulled out her chair. They were served dinner by a hotel staff member who appeared silently and disappeared just as quietly. The food was exquisite, but Victoria barely tasted it. Nathan seemed nervous, uncharacteristically fidgeting with his napkin and avoiding direct eye contact. Nathan, what's going on? Victoria finally asked when she couldn't stand the tension anymore. Nathan set down his fork and looked at her directly. I haven't been completely honest with you about who I am. Victoria's heart began to race. What do you mean? My full name is Nathan Cross, but most people know me as the founder and CEO of Cross Tech Industries. Nathan paused, watching Victoria's face for recognition. We're a technology and investment company based in Seattle. Victoria stared at him, the name sounding familiar but not quite clicking. I don't understand. Nathan pulled out his phone and showed her a Forbes article with his photograph. The headline read, Tech billionaire Nathan Cross expands into clean energy investments. Victoria's hands trembled as she read. According to the article, Nathan was worth over $8 billion and was considered one of the most influential young entrepreneurs in America. His company had developed revolutionary data processing technologies and had expanded into renewable energy and environmental investments. You're a billionaire, Victoria whispered, the words feeling strange in her mouth. Yes, and you've been lying to me this entire time. Nathan flinched. I haven't lied. I just haven't told you everything. That's the same thing. Victoria's voice rose. Then she caught herself and lowered it again. Nathan, I told you about my dreams of starting a foundation, about struggling to fund basic research, about working double shifts to keep the center operating. And all this time, you've been sitting on billions of dollars? Victoria, please let me explain. Explain what? That you thought it was amusing to watch me worry about money? That you enjoyed playing dress-up as a normal person? Tears stung Victoria's eyes as the full implications hit her. "It's not like that," Nathan said desperately. "I didn't tell you because I wanted you to see me as a person, not as a bank account. Do you have any idea how many people pretend to care about me just because of my money? So instead, you pretended to be someone else entirely." Victoria stood up, pacing to the terrace railing. The harbor stretched out below them, beautiful and vast. But all she could think about was how small she felt in comparison to Nathan's hidden wealth. "I am the same person you've been getting to know," Nathan insisted, moving to stand near her. "My feelings for you are completely real." "Are they?" "Because the person I've been falling for was honest and genuine." He asked thoughtful questions because he cared, not because he was evaluating an investment opportunity. The words hung between them like shards of broken glass. Nathan's face went pale. "Victoria, that's not fair, isn't it?" She turned to face him fully. "Tell me honestly, Nathan. Is Ocean Haven's funding connected to your interest in me?" Nathan's hesitation was answer enough. Victoria felt like she'd been punched in the stomach. "Oh my God," she breathed. "You're the anonymous donor." "Yes, but nothing." Victoria's composure finally cracked. "Do you realize what you've done? You've made it impossible for me to trust my own feelings. Every conversation we've had, every moment between us, I have to wonder if it was real or if it was just you managing an investment." "Victoria, please listen to me," Nathan pleaded. "I decided to fund Ocean Haven before I had any romantic feelings for you. The work you do there is extraordinary, and it deserves support regardless of anything between us. How convenient that you can afford to throw around millions of dollars to impress women." Victoria's voice was bitter with hurt and betrayal. "That's not what happened." Nathan's own temper flared. "I've spent my entire adult life having people pretend to love me for my money. When I met you, you saw me as just another potential donor and treated me with professional courtesy. You didn't flirt or try to impress me. You were passionate about your work, not my wealth, because I didn't know about your wealth." "Exactly. For the first time in years, someone was interested in my thoughts and opinions, not my portfolio. Do you have any idea how rare that is?" Victoria stared at him, seeing the pain in his eyes, but unable to get past her own hurt. "So you decided to base our entire relationship on a lie. I was trying to find the right time to tell you. I knew it would be complicated." "Complicated." Victoria laughed harshly. "Nathan, my co-workers are going to think I slept my way into funding for the center. My professional reputation will be destroyed, and I'll never know if anything between us was real." She moved toward the elevator, needing to escape before she said something she couldn't take back. "Victoria, wait," Nathan called after her. "Don't leave like this." She paused at the elevator doors, looking back at him one last time. "I need time to think about everything." Chapter 3. The Heart's Choice. Victoria spent the weekend in emotional turmoil, alternating between anger and heartbreak. She found herself replaying every moment with Nathan, analyzing each conversation for signs of deception or manipulation. The sea glass necklace lay on her dresser, too painful to wear, but too beautiful to throw away. By Monday morning, she had to face her colleagues at Ocean Haven. The excitement about the funding commitment was palpable, but Victoria felt like she was walking around with a terrible secret. Several staff members commented on how tired she looked, but she blamed it on excitement and stress. Dr. Walsh pulled her aside after lunch. "Victoria, I wanted you to be the first to know. Our anonymous donor has requested a private meeting with you specifically. They asked for Wednesday afternoon." Victoria's stomach dropped. "Did they say why?" "No, but I assume it's because you're our most knowledgeable program coordinator. This is a tremendous opportunity to make sure they understand our vision." Victoria nodded weakly. Dreading the confrontation she knew was coming, Wednesday arrived gray and drizzly, matching Victoria's mood perfectly. She dressed professionally in a black suit and minimal makeup. Trying to look composed despite feeling shattered inside, Nathan arrived at exactly 2 o'clock, wearing an expensive charcoal suit that emphasized his role as a major philanthropist, rather than the casual man she had fallen for. He was accompanied by a woman in her 50s carrying a leather portfolio. Victoria. "I'd like you to meet Jennifer Liu, my philanthropy director," Nathan said formally. "Jennifer, this is Victoria Sterling, the program coordinator I mentioned." Jennifer shook Victoria's hand warmly. "Mr. Cross has spoken very highly of your work here. I'm excited to discuss implementation plans." They settled in the conference room. Jennifer spread out detailed funding proposals that took Victoria's breath away. The scope was even larger than Dr. Walsh had indicated. In addition to operational funding, Nathan was proposing to build an entirely new research facility, fund graduate student positions, and establish an endowment for long-term conservation projects. "This is incredibly generous," Victoria managed, trying to maintain her professional composure while her heart hammered against her ribs. "Mr. Cross believes in supporting excellence," Jennifer replied. "He's particularly interested in your coral restoration research and the whale rehabilitation program." For an hour, they discussed timelines, staffing needs, and research priorities. Victoria found herself caught between professional excitement and personal anguish. This funding would fulfill every dream she'd ever had for marine conservation, but it was poisoned by the circumstances surrounding it. When Jennifer excused herself to take a phone call, Victoria and Nathan were left alone in the conference room. The silence stretched between them like an ocean. "Victoria," Nathan said quietly, "how are you?" "Professional," she replied crisply. "This is an extraordinary commitment to marine conservation, Mr. Cross. Ocean Haven is deeply grateful." Nathan winced at her formal tone. "Can we please talk?" "Really talk?" Victoria looked at him for a long moment, noting the shadows under his eyes and the tension in his shoulders. He looked as miserable as she felt. "What is there to say, Nathan? You've made your position clear. You want to fund our work, and I'm grateful for that. But anything personal between us is over. Why does it have to be over?" Nathan leaned forward intently. "Victoria, I know I handled this badly. I should have told you who I was from the beginning. But my feelings for you are real. How can I trust that? How can I trust anything about this situation?" Victoria's voice cracked slightly. "Do you realize that people will think I manipulated you for money? That I seduced a billionaire to save my workplace? Anyone who knows you would never think that. You don't understand what it's like to have people question your integrity," Victoria said bitterly. "I've worked my entire career to build credibility in this field. Now it looks like I've compromised everything for personal gain." Nathan was quiet for a moment. "What if I withdrew the funding offer?" Victoria stared at him in shock. "What?" "If the money is what's standing between us, I'll withdraw it. Ocean Haven can find other donors. Nathan, this funding will save lives. Marine lives. Research that could help restore ocean ecosystems. You can't withdraw it because of our personal situation. So you want me to fund your work, but stay out of your life." Victoria felt tears threatening and blinked them back fiercely. "I want you to do what's right for the ocean, regardless of what happens between us." "And what about what's right for us?" Before Victoria could answer, Jennifer returned with a stack of legal documents. "I have the preliminary agreements ready for review," she announced cheerfully. Apparently oblivious to the tension in the room, Victoria looked at the papers. Then at Nathan, seeing her future laid out in stark terms. She could accept this funding and transform Ocean Haven into everything she'd dreamed of. But she would always wonder about Nathan's motivations. Or she could reject it and preserve her integrity, while potentially destroying opportunities to make a real impact on marine conservation. "I need to discuss this with Dr. Walsh and our board," Victoria said finally. "This is a decision that affects more than just me." Nathan nodded, his expression unreadable. "Of course. Take all the time you need." As they prepared to leave, Nathan caught Victoria's arm gently. "For what it's worth, I never meant to hurt you. And I meant what I said that first night. You've changed how I think about what matters." Victoria looked into his eyes, seeing sincerity there, but also the vast gulf that his wealth and deception had created between them. "I know you didn't mean to hurt me," she said softly, "but you did anyway." That evening, Victoria sat on her small apartment balcony, watching the sunset paint the harbor in shades of gold and pink. She held the sea glass necklace in her palm, remembering the vendor's words about resilience and beauty. Her phone buzzed with a text from Nathan. I love you, Victoria. That's the only truth that matters to me. Victoria stared at the message for a long time before typing back. Love isn't enough if it's built on lies. But as she sent the message, she wondered if she was making the biggest mistake of her life. Because despite everything, despite the betrayal and the complications, she was still in love with Nathan Cross. And that was the most painful truth of all. She clasped the necklace around her neck and went inside, knowing that tomorrow would bring difficult decisions about both her professional future and her heart. Sometimes the most beautiful things were indeed born from the strongest storms. But not everything survived the tempest intact. The story of Victoria and Nathan would need more than love to find its happy ending. It would need forgiveness, trust rebuilt from the ground up, and the courage to believe that two people from different worlds could find common ground in the depths of their shared dreams. But that was a story for another day. When the storms had passed and the sea glass of their hearts had been polished smooth by time and understanding,